Daniel Hayes stood at the kitchen window, watching Laura's car pull into the driveway. 14 years of marriage had taught him her rhythms, the way she always checked her reflection in the rearview mirror before getting out, how she'd pause to straighten her blouse. But lately there'd been new patterns, the lingering in the car, thumbing through her phone, the quick spray of perfume before entering the house, and that goddamn cigarette smell. He'd first noticed it 3 months ago. A Tuesday afternoon when he'd come home early with a migraine. The acrid scent had hit him the moment he opened the door. Unmistakable, foreign, wrong. Neither of them had ever smoked. Laura's father had died of lung cancer. She'd always been militant about avoiding cigarettes. "Hey," Laura said, breezing past him toward the stairs. "I'm going to shower before dinner." Laura. He kept his voice neutral. "Do you smell that?" She froze mid-step, her hand gripping the banister. "Smell? What?" she asked, tension creeping into her voice. "Cigarette smoke," he answered simply. The panic that flashed across her face lasted maybe half a second, but Daniel's engineer's mind cataloged it like a data point. "Oh, that," she replied quickly, forcing casualness into her tone. "Mrs. Henry was outside smoking when I got home. Wind must have blown it through the windows." Mrs. Henry lived 3 houses down and had quit smoking 5 years ago after her husband's heart attack. Daniel knew because he'd helped them install an air purifier system. But he nodded, filed the lie away, and said nothing. That night, lying beside Laura as she scrolled through her phone with the screen angled away from him, Daniel's mind worked through the evidence. The cigarette smell appeared twice a week now. Tuesdays and Fridays. Laura's book club had moved to Tuesday afternoons 3 months ago. Her Friday yoga classes had started around the same time. He'd built his life on predictability and trust. Met Laura at Jim's barbecue 15 years ago. Her laugh had carried across the yard, genuine and unguarded. Within a year, they were married. She'd quit her retail job to manage the house while he climbed the ladder at Midwest Manufacturing. They'd been trying for kids for 3 years before accepting it wouldn't happen. He thought they'd grieved that loss together, grown, stronger. Now watching her guard her phone like a teenager, Daniel felt the foundation shifting beneath him. The changes had been accumulating like rust on steel, invisible until suddenly the structure was compromised. New passwords on her devices, receipts from stores he didn't recognize, the way she'd started shaving her legs twice a week instead of once. Small betrayals that meant nothing individually, but together painted an obvious picture. Tuesday came again. Daniel sat in his office, staring at his computer screen while his coworkers discussed a valve failure. At 2 p.m., his phone buzzed with Laura's text, "Running errands, home by 5." He excused himself, drove home, and parked one street over. Through the gap in his backyard fence, he watched a beaten Honda Civic pull into his driveway. The driver, young, maybe mid-20s, cigarette dangling from his lips, walked to his front door like he belonged there. Laura let him in immediately. Daniel sat in his car for 20 minutes, his hands steady on the wheel, his mind already planning. He wouldn't confront them. Not yet. His engineering training demanded data, evidence, proof. Tomorrow he'd research private investigators, document everything, build an airtight case. He drove back to work, deleted his browser history, after researching the best PIs in Illinois, and began preparing for war. Marcus Reeves didn't look like a private investigator. No trench coat, no cigarettes, no world-weary cynicism. He looked like an accountant, wire-rimmed glasses, polo shirt, khakis. Which made sense, Daniel thought, since his job was essentially auditing marriages. They met at a diner in Rockford, 30 miles from Daniel's house. Marcus spread his tablet on the Formica table between coffee cups. "Infidelity cases are straightforward," Marcus said, his voice clinical. photography, timestamps, pattern documentation. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but evidence of adultery affects asset division and alimony. What you're buying is leverage. I want everything, Daniel replied without hesitation. Every meeting, every location, every detail, Marcus quoted. His rate, $2,000 for 2 weeks of surveillance. Daniel paid in cash. The first report came 3 days later. Tuesday, 1:47 p.m. Laura meets subject at Motel 6 off Route 47. Subject identified as Tyler Morrison, 24, unemployed. 2 misdemeanor convictions for possession. Daniel stared at the photographs. Laura entering room 23, Tyler's hand on her lower back. The familiar intimacy of it made his stomach turn, but he maintained his routine. Kissed Laura goodbye each morning, asked about her day each evening, listened to her elaborate lies about traffic and long lines at Target. His performance was flawless while Marcus's camera captured the truth. Friday's report included audio. Marcus had managed to record a phone conversation, Laura's voice breathy and giggly. He won't be home until 6. We have hours. The contempt in her tone when she mentioned Daniel. He's so predictable, so boring, cut deeper than the affair itself. Daniel met with Patricia, a divorce attorney Marcus recommended. Her office overlooked the river, all glass and sharp angles. With this evidence, she gets nothing, Patricia said confidently, reviewing Marcus's files. But you need to protect your assets now. Move half the savings to a separate account, legally yours to do. Document all marital property. Change your beneficiaries. Daniel did it all within 48 hours. Laura never checked their accounts anyway. She just used the credit cards he paid off monthly. The second week brought darker revelations. Marcus recorded Laura outside the motel. "I'm not leaving him yet." "Why would I?" she said with calculating coldness. "He pays for everything. Tyler doesn't have a job. Once I figure out how to get the most in a divorce, then I'll file." Tyler's voice nervous. "What if he finds out?" "He won't," she answered dismissively. "Daniel's sweet, but he's not exactly observant. Besides, even if he did, what's he going to do? He's never raised his voice in 14 years. Marcus's final report was comprehensive. 23 documented meetings over the 2-week surveillance, period. But evidence suggested the affair had been ongoing for approximately 3 months. 12 hotel visits during that time. Hundreds of text messages Marcus had somehow obtained. Financial records showing Laura had opened a separate account, squirreling away cash withdrawals from their joint account. "She's planning her exit," Marcus observed during their final meeting. "But she's greedy, wants to milk you for a few more months." Daniel studied the surveillance photos. Tyler always smoked while waiting for Laura. American Spirits, the source of that smell that started everything. In one photo, they were kissing in Daniel's driveway, Tyler's cigarette still burning between his fingers. "There's something else," Marcus said carefully, sliding a USB drive across the table. "Last Tuesday, she brought him to your house, your bedroom, specifically." Daniel pocketed the drive without looking at it. He didn't need to see that. The violation was complete enough. That evening, Laura hummed while making dinner. Some pop. Songs she'd never listened to before Tyler. She'd grown careless, confident in her deception. Her phone sat unlocked on the counter. She'd stopped bothering with excuses for the cigarette smell. "You seem happy," Daniel observed casually. "Just a good day," she replied without even looking at him. "Book club was fun." He smiled, genuinely, this time, because Marcus had confirmed Tuesday's pattern. In 3 days, Laura would bring Tyler to their house again, and Daniel would be ready. Daniel's supervisor barely looked up when he mentioned the dizzy spell. "Take the afternoon, Hayes. You've got plenty of sick time." The drive home took 17 minutes. Daniel had timed it repeatedly over the past week. He'd leave at 1:30, arrive by 1:47, right when Marcus said they usually arrived. The Honda Civic was already in his driveway, parked at an angle like Tyler was planning a quick escape. 3 cigarette butts littered his front steps. American spirits. Daniel photographed them before entering his own home. The living room curtains were drawn, something Laura never did during the day. He could hear them before he saw them, Tyler's laugh mixing with Laura's voice. She sounded younger, lighter, like the woman he'd married 15 years ago. Daniel stepped into the doorway. Tyler saw him first, his cigarette freezing halfway to his lips. Laura was curled against him on Daniel's leather couch, the one they'd bought together for their 10th anniversary. Her hand was on Tyler's chest, her wedding ring catching the light. "Daniel," Laura said, her voice cracking, but only for a moment. Then something shifted in her expression, panic to calculation to something like relief. Tyler scrambled up, cigarette falling onto Daniel's carpet. Oh shit, man, I didn't, she said you were," he stammered. "Sit down, Tyler," Laura commanded, her voice steady now, controlled. She lit another cigarette with deliberate slowness. "Daniel, since you're here, we might as well talk." She introduced Tyler like they were at a cocktail party. 24, aspiring musician, they'd met at a coffee shop. 3 months ago, she volunteered this information with a casualness that felt rehearsed. "I've been unhappy," Laura continued, smoke curling between them. "You're a good man, Daniel, but you're boring. Every day is exactly the same. Work, dinner, TV, bed. I'm 39 years old and I feel like I'm already dead." Daniel said nothing, his silence seeming to embolden her. "Tyler makes me feel alive," she declared boldly. "The intimacy is incredible, something we haven't had in years." She paused, gauging his reaction. "I wasn't planning to tell you yet, but since you know, here's what's going to happen." She laid out her terms with the confidence of someone who'd rehearsed this speech. Tyler would continue coming over, twice a week, just like before. Daniel could either accept it or face the consequences. She'd claim emotional abuse, sexual inadequacy, years of neglect. She'd take half of everything, maybe more. His reputation at work, in their community, she'd destroy it all. "I've already talked to a lawyer," she lied smoothly. "Wives always win these battles. You can keep your dignity and your money if you just accept the situation. Tyler's not going anywhere." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Laura, maybe we should—" He started hesitantly. "Quiet!" she snapped without even looking at him. Her focus was entirely on Daniel, predatory and certain. "You're too weak to fight me, Daniel. Too worried about what people think. And you're definitely too smart to lose everything over pride." Daniel stood perfectly still, processing her speech like an equation. Every threat, every assumption about his character, every miscalculation of her position, it all confirmed what Marcus had documented. Laura had mistaken kindness for weakness, consistency for stupidity. "I need to think about your proposal," Daniel said finally, his voice perfectly level. Laura's smirk widened. "Take all the time you need," she replied smugly. "We'll be here." Daniel walked to the bedroom, his footsteps measured and calm. Behind him, he heard Tyler whisper urgently, "He's taking this way too well. Something's wrong." "He's in shock," Laura replied, but uncertainty colored her voice for the first time. In the bedroom, Daniel retrieved the manila folder from his dresser drawer, the one he'd prepared 3 days ago, knowing this moment would come. The weight of it felt satisfying in his hands. 2 weeks of Marcus's surveillance evidence, Patricia's business card clipped to the front. He paused at the mirror. The man looking back wasn't the boring husband Laura thought she'd married. This was someone who'd spent 2 weeks planning her complete destruction, someone who'd already won the war she didn't know they were fighting. Daniel smiled, the same smile he'd worn when he solved particularly complex problems at work. Then, he walked back to the living room, ready to show Laura exactly how badly she'd miscalculated everything. Daniel returned to the living room with the manila folder, his entire demeanor transformed. The shocked husband was gone, replaced by someone Laura had never met, calculating, prepared, dangerous. "I have a confession," Daniel announced, setting the folder on the coffee table. "I've known about your affair for 2 weeks." Laura's cigarette trembled slightly. "That's impossible," she protested. "You just found—" "3 months ago, you panicked when I mentioned smelling cigarette smoke," Daniel interrupted, his voice carrying the same tone he used when explaining engineering failures to junior staff. "Your lie about Mrs. Henry was particularly stupid. She quit smoking 5 years ago. I helped install her air purifier. That panic told me everything." He opened the folder, spreading photographs across the coffee table like playing cards. "The next day, I hired Marcus Reeves, private investigator, 20 years experience, very thorough." The first photo showed Laura entering the Motel 6. The second, her kissing Tyler in the parking lot. The third, fourth, fifth, a comprehensive timeline of betrayal, each image time-stamped and dated. Tyler's face went white. "You've been watching us?" he asked in horror. "For exactly 2 weeks," Daniel confirmed matter-of-factly. "Every meeting during that time documented. 23 encounters total. But Marcus found evidence the affair started 3 months ago. 12 hotel visits. Your criminal record, Tyler. 2 possessions, currently on probation. Your probation officer will be very interested in these photos of you smoking marijuana in your car." Laura grabbed the photos, her hands shaking now. Each image was perfectly clear, undeniable. Marcus had even captured them through the motel window, not explicit, but clear enough for court. "The audio recordings are particularly damning," Daniel continued, pulling out transcripts. "You discussing how you're using me for money, planning to milk me for a few more months, calling me boring and predictable while spending the money I earn." He quoted her words back verbatim. "He's sweet, but not exactly observant." What's he going to do? He's never raised his voice in 14 years. "Well, my personal favorite. Once I figure out how to get the most in a divorce, then I'll file." Laura's confident facade crumbled entirely. "You can't. Those recordings are illegal," she stammered desperately. "Illinois is a 2-party consent state for recordings," Daniel agreed calmly. "Unless they're in public spaces. Motel parking lots, coffee shops, your conversations on our front porch, all perfectly legal. Patricia made sure of that." At the mention of an attorney, Laura went pale. Daniel produced more documents, bank statements, asset lists, Patricia's business card. "I've already moved our savings," Daniel stated coldly. "Legally, I'm allowed to protect marital assets when adultery is documented. The house is in my name only. You never wanted the responsibility, remember? Your car, also my name. Your credit cards, canceled as of this morning." Tyler stood abruptly. "I need to go," he said, panic rising. "Sit down," Daniel commanded, his voice carrying an authority neither of them had heard before. "You're on my property, in my house, my wife. You'll leave when I say you can leave." The profanity, so unlike Daniel, made them both flinch. Daniel produced the final documents. Divorce papers, already filed. Adultery clearly documented. Your threats about claiming abuse? They're recorded too. Extortion, actually. Patricia says that could be criminal charges if you pursue false allegations. Laura's breathing became ragged. "Daniel, please," she begged, her composure completely gone. "We can work this out. I'll end it with Tyler. We can go to counseling." "Counseling?" Daniel laughed, sharp and bitter. "You brought him to our bed, Laura." "Our bed. Marcus has video of you entering our house with him last Tuesday. You violated everything while I was at work earning the money you were stealing." He turned to Tyler with ice-cold fury. "You have 5 minutes to leave. If you contact my wife again, these photos go to your probation officer. If you come near my property, they go to the police. Clear?" Tyler didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed his jacket and practically ran for the door, not even looking back at Laura. "Tyler!" Laura called after him desperately, but the door was already slamming. Alone now, Laura's desperation peaked. "You can't just throw me out," she snarled, her mask finally completely off. "I have rights. You have until 6 p.m. to pack what you can carry," Daniel replied with finality. "Anything you leave becomes property disposal. Your sister lives 40 minutes away. I suggest you call her." "This isn't over," Laura threatened, venom in her voice. "I'll fight you." "With what money? What lawyer? What evidence?" Daniel asked, gathering the photos back into the folder. "You calculated every angle except the one that mattered. You thought I was the same trusting fool you married. Instead, you taught me something valuable, how to solve problems permanently." As Laura stormed toward the bedroom to pack, Daniel called out calmly, "Oh, and Laura? I called your Tuesday book club myself last week. They haven't seen you in 3 months. I told them you'd found a new hobby." The sound of her sob was the last weakness she'd show him. The divorce finalized in 43 days, near record time for Illinois. Laura's attorney, a public defender turned divorce lawyer she'd found through legal aid, reviewed Daniel's evidence for exactly 1 meeting before advising immediate settlement. She got nothing. No alimony, no assets, no dignity. Daniel heard through. Marcus, who kept casual tabs as a professional courtesy, that Tyler had disappeared from the state entirely. Apparently, the threat to his probation combined with Laura's subsequent stalking had driven him to Colorado. Laura's own family, initially sympathetic, withdrew support after Daniel's attorney shared the recorded extortion threats. The house felt different now. Cleaner, somehow, though Daniel had hired professionals to deep clean everything twice. The cigarette smell was gone, along with the uncertainty that had plagued his final months of marriage. His evenings were his own, sometimes working on engineering projects, sometimes just enjoying the silence. 6 months later, his colleague Jennifer mentioned her sister was getting divorced. Caught her husband cheating. She's devastated, doesn't know what to do. Daniel pulled out Patricia's business card. "Tell her to document everything first," he advised. "Then call this attorney, and whatever she does, don't confront him until she's ready for war." "Speaking from experience?" Jennifer asked curiously. "From engineering," Daniel replied with quiet satisfaction. "You never start demolition until you've planned the complete teardown." The house he'd shared with Laura had become his alone, filled with the quiet satisfaction of problems solved and justice served. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't dramatic or passionate. It was methodical, thorough, and absolutely complete. Laura's last Facebook post before deleting her account had been telling, "Starting over is hard when you've lost everything." Daniel had commented with a single word. "Exactly." She'd blocked him immediately, but the message was already delivered. He'd won not through rage or violence, but through patience and preparation, the same traits she'd mocked as boring. Turns out, boring could be devastating when properly applied. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.